Everyone to the Game Time Pod. Our next segment here in this episode is the NBA playoffs. Just going to go over a couple series, talk about what we like and do like. Just hear what Daryl Ramon was there for the NFL segment, but he is a head football coach here in Indiana, so he had some things he had to attend to there. So we are going to finish off the rest of the episode, well, the podcast, just me and Daryl talking some hoops. And we've been doing this for a couple of years, right? I did it with Darren. You were in there, so just like old times, me and you we're gonna discuss some hoops there. But I'm gonna go over all the series right now in the NBA. We start off with Warriors and Rockets from last night. They lead that series 2-1. You look at the next one, Nuggets and Clippers. That is tied 2-2. OKC gets the sweep over the Grizzlies. They have already got that done in 4 games. Cleveland leads Miami 3-0, and then you look at the rest of the series. You've got New York and the Pistons. As of right now, I believe it is 1-1. They're playing right now. I can't. Oh, yeah. No. Sorry.
50-43.
New York leads 2-1 in the series, though. So this is game 4 that they're playing right now as we're recording. The Timberwolves lead the Lakers 2-1. Boston leads the Magic 2-1, and the Pacers lead the Bucks 2-1. So Daryl, I will let you start us off. Where do you want to hit at, and then I will follow up on that and maybe bring up another series as well.
Well, I would like to get the low-hanging fruit out of the way first, right? So with the Cleveland-Miami series, it's 3-0. It's not close. There's nothing to talk about. Cleveland are looking like a juggernaut. So they're going to sweep this series more than likely and be able to move on to the next round. OKC with Memphis, they swept them 4. Ja was out the last 2 games, I think, at least the last game and maybe half the game prior. Look for Memphis to break things up this summer. You fire your coach 2 weeks before the end of the season. You've got your best player who can't keep himself out of trouble from a league perspective standpoint, and all the actions that he has. You get Zach Edey in the first round, who doesn't match with what the team plays like. So something's got to give there. Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me that John Moran is in another city at the start of the NBA season next year.
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about here. I kind of agree with you. I think Miami's going to have to really figure out what they want to do with Harrow and Bam. Do you get rid of them and restart? We kind of talked about that a couple episodes ago. I said maybe they try and give Zion a resurrection, right? Because we talked about the culture and, maybe they can get him to a weight that is feasible for him to not get hurt. Obviously injuries still happen, but I think Miami's going to have to really do some soul searching this offseason. And yeah, for Memphis, you blow it up. We talked about where Ja could end up. I don't know where he would end up, honestly, at this point. Who's going to take that shot on him? We will have to see. No pun intended when I said shot, by the way. But I don't know what's going to happen over there. All I know is whoever has to play the Thunder, they're definitely going to be battle tested because I'm going to move on to Denver and the Clippers. What an ending to last night's game, right? Jokic goes for a 3. And Aaron Gordon does Aaron Gordon things, dunks the ball. I wonder if that goes on the assist count, though, for Jokic. That was the question I had after that one.
That was a lie. I swear he'll tell you that was a lie, right?
So
they worked on that all season.
So if they do go to Game 7, they will go to Denver. And I am really curious to see who's going to win this series because I've said Clippers in 7. But, man, the Nuggets aren't going away. But we said that, right? I said the Clippers in 7. You said this is a 7-game series. But, man, Denver really will not go away. And it's got me kind of thinking, okay, maybe Denver can win. Maybe Denver does win this series.
You know what's crazy? So when you saw Jokic in Game 3 going off on his teammates, I remember me and Darren were talking on the phone, and I said, I changed my pick, Clippers in 5. Because it looked like they were imploding, right before your eyes, and they turn around last night, got a big lead. Mm-hmm. They lose the lead late, and they had the wherewithal to get the W on the road in a hostile environment, right? So give them kudos, man. Give Denver all the credit that they deserve. Here's why I say it. Their core, that championship core is still there. those four guys are still there, right? And they knew what it was like to be in that type of situation. They've been there before, and their best players made the difference. Mm-hmm. I didn't say Porter Jr. because I don't remember where he was, right? So you got your guys who made the difference last night. So in this case, you're talking about 2 out of 3 in Denver. No reason why it won't be a 7-game series.
And someone pointed this out on Twitter, and I think they made a good point. You got to give a lot of credit to Ben Simmons and the defense he was playing on Jokic for the time he was in. He did a great job at defending Jokic in certain stretches of that game. I give a lot of props to Ben Simmons because we know offensively he can't do much. Defensively, I think he really showed he could be that X factor for them on the defensive side of the ball. And this Clippers team is really rocking and rolling, right? Kawhi had 24. Harden had 15. Zubac may be my favorite player in the league with the way he's playing. 19 and 12 and 6 assists. I mean, at this point, I'm going to have to put Zubac in top 10 center conversations in the league. Like, I love what Zubac has done in this stretch for this Clippers team.
He's grown, and here's the thing about it.
Norman Powell, 22 as well.
Well, we talked about Norman Powell a couple weeks ago, right? Mm-hmm. He's consistent. He's consistent. But think about this. Zubac was he's been in LA, but he was in Lakerland.
He was.
And they didn't see.
I still hate that Magic Johnson traded him.
Because he wasn't that guy then. Let's be fair.
Yeah, I agree.
He wasn't that guy, right? And again, he's just come along, played and gotten better. So yeah, now he's carved himself out an opportunity, to your point, to be probably going into the next season top 10 center, or if you want to say front court player, right? Because now he's front court, back court. So yeah, I give him a lot of credit. But I would say this: the heart that Denver showed yesterday and getting the lead, losing it, and still winning. That's championship DNA. And I like what I saw out of Denver in that area. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight. I want to go 7. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that's my piece on Denver and the Clippers. My pivot on, I'll say pivot to Celtics and Magic. We talked about this, right? And I'll give you some credit. We talked about that young kid out of Duke. You talked about how much he loved. Listen, I said, Suggs is not playing. If you remember, I said, Suggs is not in, and half of the German assassin team is not in. I said, and I don't know that they have enough to make this beyond a 5-game series. Think about this. They win today, it's 2-2.
Yep.
2-2. Yep. And you can say what you want, Boston fans, with injuries or whatever. Those things happen to everybody. You got all that talent you paid for. You got your salaries are over $200 million a season. You've got 3 all NBA players. You have 3 guys that are on the Olympic team. I don't want to hear it talking about, well, Jason Tatum hurt his wrist.
And the game they played, Tatum was in. The game they won, Tatum was in and had 36.
Think about this. 3 Olympians on a 12-team roster. So 25% of the Olympic team lives in Boston. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it should have been a 4th guy. If Jaylen Brown wasn't the smart intellectual being that he is, it could have been 4 guys on that Olympic team.
Yeah.
That's 33% of your Olympic team in Boston. So the first time I hear someone from Boston talking about an injury or Porzingis hurting his, bleeding at the foot, I don't want to hear it.
No. Yeah. I give a lot of credit to myself and my belief in Orlando. I really like Paulo, and I think
go ahead. Yourself in the back, man. Listen, you called it, man. You called it, and you said, listen, don't be surprised if this is a tougher series for Boston than you think. Mm-hmm. You said it.
And I think the other thing I give a lot of credit to Franz Wagner. He's done a great job in the game they won. He was their leading scorer in that game. He had, 32.7 rebounds, 8 assists. He did a really good job for this team, and that's what's hurt Orlando last year was the guys around Paulo did not show up to play. And this time around, even though they lost 2 games, they've lost close games to Boston. And I give a lot of props to Wendell Carter Jr. as well. He had 10 and 12. That's solid for a center, right? I'm not asking Wendell Carter Jr. to put up 20 because he's never been a 20-point per game type of guy. But to put up 10 and 12, you're giving this team a fighting chance. You got Corey Joseph, who had 6 and 3. Okay.
Hey, take
Anthony
him off
Black
the
had 9
scrap
and
heap.
2.
Corey Joseph, ex-Pacer from years past. I mean,
Well, he
I'm
started in one of these games, so it's like, okay,
out the league.
yeah,
I thought he'd been gone for 10 years.
he's been
Corey Joseph.
starting. So I guess I got to give him a bit. I got to give him some
Yeah.
props there for hanging in there. But I
He
give
hasn't
Orlando
aged
a
bit,
lot of
man.
props.
He hasn't aged a bit. He looks the exact
Yeah.
same as he looked when he was with the Pacers, and that was 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So yeah.
Orlando just has depth, all right. I said it. I think I said it in that video. They just have a lot of depth to me. Anthony Black is young. KCP's been in playoff situations before. Cole Anthony had one heck of a game in the play-in. I'd have to look and see what he's done in previous games, but Cole Anthony can give you a random 20, 23, 24 nights here and there.
He's a typical rando guy.
Yeah.
He'll give 24 and then he'll give you 2.
It sucks they don't have Suggs, because I think if Suggs was here, they may have been up 2-1 in my opinion. Because Suggs has been that second guy for them. Him and Franz have kind of bounced back and forth on, okay, you're the second guy, you're the second. They've bounced back and forth. Not having Suggs has definitely hurt them, but it hasn't hurt them too much because they're giving this Boston team a fight. I really like what we're seeing from Orlando. I want to go back to the West now, and I want to talk about the Houston Rockets. We talked about the clip I posted about Jalen Green has been on the money to this point. I want to start with game 1, if I can find game 1 in this series. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so game 1 for them was on a Tuesday. Jalen Green
95-85.
Jalen Green had 38. Not a bad game for Jalen Green, right? He then comes into the next game. When was that?
No. Game one. He had 7.
And then that second game, he had 38.
Yeah, that he was. Because remember, I think if you go back and listen to the clip, I think you said he'll get you 7 and then he'll get you 30.
Yeah,
if I remember right. So
and then
7 was the exact number that he got in game 1.
And then on Saturday, he had 9. He had 9, 6 and 5, 4 of 11 shooting, 1 of 5 from 3, a negative 14 plus minus. And then you've got his counterparts. You've got Alpine Sengun with 15 and 11. And I said it in that game. I said, you're going to have to count on Van Vliet and Brooks. And Van Vliet had 17. Brooks had 13. I said, keep an eye on the Thompson twin. He had 11 and 7. Not too bad. And then Jabari Smith had 12 and 5. Jalen Green's lacking. And somebody said it. It was a TikTok clip. I don't know who did it, but credit to them. Jalen Green has not gotten any better than when he came into the league. He's been the same player. He's showing lights. He's showing really good strides. And then sometimes he's not playing well. And I'm a Jalen Green supporter. I even said I think Green will be better than Caleb Cunningham on draft night. I said it, and that's me loving both players. I love both players. But I said I think Green's ceiling as this explosive guy, I think it could be way higher, and I think you could see way more success with Green. But it's not. But I also have given him a lot of flack, not only on this podcast, but just talking outside of this podcast, that he has not gotten any better since he's came into the league, and he's been so up and down, and it's hurting this team. They were up at half, if I remember, against Golden State on yesterday, and then they blew this game.
They were up 6, if I remember right. And then what happened, Curry just all of a sudden start doing Curry things. The thing about Jalen Green is, oftentimes as a young player, you lean and leverage on your athleticism, right? That's your go-to move, right? So what he's got to do is get a little bit of, I can't get that done in him, right? And say, I got to pivot off and do something else. Now, what else am I going to be able to do, right? Do I need to get in the block here or there, right? Do I say, listen, first half, I'm going to stop guys, right? I'm going to use my athleticism to stop guys. You jacking up a 3 with 16 seconds on the shot clock, that's not what we need. Get that ball moving, and the game will come to you, and your points will come. Don't try and force it. And I just believe he's in his mindset that he's the guy.
Mhm.
And so you're the guy, you got to take that shot. And I think that's where he is right
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
and I think Houston they're gonna have to figure some things out, right? I don't think we see a scenario where Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, Asar or Amen, I don't know which one,
Thompson.
or
I just call
yeah,
Thompson.
I don't think there's a situation where Sengun, um, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Thompson are all on the same team. I think one of these guys is gonna have to go to get to their true potential. And I could see it being Jalen Green, right? You've got Van Vliet and Brooks there who have been consistent. I'm not gonna I mean they've been good, they've been consistent. Jalen Green may be the odd man out here because you also look at Thompson defensively, he's better than Jalen Green, and then offensively, he's trying to find his way into this offense, which is fine. I'm not gonna. That's my thing. So I feel like there may come a point where this Houston team's like, we could trade Green, get some assets, and then have Thompson, who can be good on offense, but he could be great on defense.
Think about this. Houston was the second seed in the West, right? And you've got these athletes on your team, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you made a great point about the Thompson twin. And there's been a lot of talk about Houston being a potential destination for KD. I'm not saying he is or he isn't, but if
Yeah.
you're Houston, and if you believe that Thompson is not going to get you all over the hump, Thompson, packages some draft, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe another because you got to think salaries as well. It's
Yep.
NBA, so you got to look at some players as well. Maybe that's something that maybe relive come end of June. I think end
Yeah.
of June going into July. Something to keep your eye on. To your point, if they go out in flames and they lose these next two games when Jimmy Butler's on the bench, I'm telling you, something's going to happen, and it'll probably start and end with Mr. Thompson. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But to that point, if you do that, now do you say this is KD's team for the next 2 years because I think he's got 2 years left on his deal, or do you say now we're a collective? We're a collective. So like at Golden State, a collective. And I
Yeah.
think that may be an opportunity because I'll tell you what, KD is not going to go 38-5. He's going to go 38, 31, 27. He's not going to have the up and downs that
No.
Thompson
Yeah.
at his age and at his experience level is having right now.
So you think they trade Thompson over Green?
I don't know. I'm talking about. I keep saying, Thompson stays, Green goes.
Oh, okay. You were saying Thompson through that whole
I'm
thing.
sorry.
I was, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Defense. I was thinking defense,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Green because again to that point, he's an alpha guy. He's an alpha,
Yeah.
right? Do they need him as an alpha in Houston like that? I mean, you can't be an alpha at 35, 7, 17, 31, 9.
Yeah, it's just too.
That's
It's all over the
an alpha.
place. It
Yeah.
just it won't get it done. And but I also here's my thing. I don't know why these teams are so sold on okay, Kevin Durant, come save us. Like no, I don't think it works. I'm not saying because it may work in Houston because they've got the depth, and I think that's probably been the issue in
You
Phoenix is
also
their
got to have
depth and
infrastructure.
everything else.
You
But
got the infrastructure. You got the infrastructure. Think
yeah,
about this. Phoenix has had 3 coaches in 3 years. The New Jersey Nets, they were a turnstile. So the places KD has gone since leaving Golden State were turnstiles. They
yeah,
didn't have any peace in their organization. They were both up in arms, right? So if you're looking at a Houston program, you know who the coach is, you know who the ownership group is, you know who the GM is. I think that's going to be consistent. KD as a player needs something like that.
yeah.
He doesn't be, I'm coming in, I'm going to save the day. I'm not thinking that he's going to come in and save the day. He would be the piece that they would need to get them there. Think about it, they're a second seed, man.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Second seed. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's KD of 8 years ago. No.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, just maybe, he's that type of player that would replace Mr. Green to put them in that winning situation.
That's a fair statement. I wouldn't be opposed to it in that regard. I would just hope that I just hope it's not one of those situations, and I'll compare it to LeBron coming to the Lakers where all these young guys get thrown out if it doesn't work the first year. I hope it's not a situation, but I don't think it will because I don't think
he doesn't
because
have the cachet.
Sengun
He doesn't
is
have the cachet that Bron had. Remember,
Sengun's an all-star at this point, right? And I think the difference between the Lakers and LeBron was there wasn't an all-star yet. Lonzo was very up and down at that time. You didn't know what Randall was. Zubac, like you said, wasn't really developed. There were still a lot of questions with all those young guys on the Lakers, where these
Brandon Ingram as
guys,
well. Forget about
yeah, yeah,
Brandon
yeah.
Ingram,
There
right?
was a lot of guys. There's these Houston guys are defined. They've had this place to be nurtured and grown. So I think if Katie does walk into it, okay, maybe it could definitely be something different. Let's pivot over. Let's go back to the East. Let's talk about the Indiana Pacers. You got the shirt
Oh,
on.
hold on. Let's
Okay, what do
pivot
you
back.
where do you want to
Let's go.
go?
Let's go. Knicks Pistons because
Okay.
that game on. And what I said when we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I said this is a bad matchup for the Knicks. I said Detroit brings a level of toughness that the Knicks don't have this year versus they had last year, right? And it kind of played out in those first two games of the series.
Yeah.
Then the Knicks get back to Detroit, and they decide, hey, Karl Anthony Towns is a center, and we're gonna let him start playing as a center. They won the game. It's currently now 52-51 with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. And I'm gonna tell you this: that crowd is helping the Pistons big time. Because as I saw, it looks as though Tim Hardaway Jr. is having an impact on the game. What I'll say is this:
Tobias is too.
If the Knicks decide that they want to put Cat in that pick and roll and continue the pick and roll, not having your point guard hog the ball, get that ball moving and getting Cat in that pick and roll, I think New York wins this game today, and they go up 3-1. But if they go back to this is our point guard, and this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna foul bait. I'm telling you, that's gonna play into the Pistons' hands. And I think the Pistons win that game, right? So it's gonna be interesting this last 19 minutes of the game and seeing what the Knicks do on the offensive end. That's what I'm interested about.
And when you're New York, you want to finish this as quick as possible, right? You want to finish this series because you're getting the matchup you want. You're getting Boston, right? This is what every New York fan wanted last year. They want the Celtics. They want this game. Whether they lose it or what, they want a taste of Boston. They haven't gotten to play Boston yet in the playoffs. This is the series they want. What better way for New York than to win the next two games, hope Orlando knocks another game off of Boston and makes them play a 6-7 game series. You get a little more worn out Boston. And then this Eastern Conference gets way more interesting because you're going to have Cleveland face Indiana or Milwaukee, which that's going to be tough. This second round in the East could be one of the most intense second rounds we have seen in a couple of years. That even goes for the West. This is going to be one of the best playoffs in the last couple of years. I think since the Bucks and the Suns played in 2020, I think this is going to be the best playoffs we've seen since then because of how even things look.
And the intensity. They keep talking about physicality. I'm not buying the physicality.
Everyone's chipping at each other.
These guys are chippy, and everybody's offended by everything, right? Everything that you touch a guy, he's offended. That's not physicality. That's sassiness to me. And again, these guys, there's been nobody kicked out for fighting. There's been a lot of pushing and shoving and talking. So
that's fine though. I'm not. That's fine. Yeah.
Let's pause the brakes on. They're so much more physical. No, they're chippy, and I get that. We'll see what happens, right? But to your point, we can pivot to Pacers Bucks, and I won't go long with it because I'm a Pacer fan. I still say the Pacers are the better team. I still say that Giannis is the best player in the series.
Yep.
Pacers controlled that game Friday night.
They got experimental
for 28 minutes. 28 minutes. Then you get Trent who gets hot, right? And they pull away late. That's fine. But here's what I saw in the first half. Remember when I had my episode, I talked about the Pacers defense. And everyone thought about the Pacers don't play defense. Detroit's up by 1, by the way.
Okay.
So the Pacers don't play defense. Tyrese Halliburton is running, right? He's not playing D. First quarter of the game on Friday. Lillard goes to the basket. Tyrese is against him. He goes up, swats it at the rim. Ball deflects out. Milwaukee gets a basket. But if you saw the bench and how the bench was so excited about Tyrese Halliburton blocking his shot at the rim, told me everything I want to know about Tyrese. Here's your X factor for tonight's game. It'll be determined in the first quarter. Look at Miles Turner's body language. He was a wreck in the first quarter of the game on Friday night. They were leading the game in spite of Miles Turner. He had his poorest game I've seen probably in the last month or so. Yeah. He was awkward looking. He didn't have the confidence, and he didn't look comfortable. First quarter, if Miles Turner hits that first three at the top of the key and does that fist pump thing that he loves to do and gets that smile on his face, it's going to be tough for Milwaukee. But if he's got his head down and he's not engaged, it's going to be a dogfight for 4 quarters. That's what I said about.
I was going to say the other player too, Andrew Nembhard. He had 6 points. He's got to wake up a little bit too. He's got to wake up.
Listen, his goal and his job is to make Damian Lillard's life hell, and he's done that. We need him to do that. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me rewind. I said we. The Pacers need him to do that because I'm not out there playing. So I can't say we if I'm not out there playing. So if the Pacers have Nembhard out there in Damian Lillard's jock like he was, that's a win for them.
Yeah.
Now what happens, and I think, the other guys are Ben Mathurin and then also Neesmith. How do those guys play on the wing? Because no one's guarding Giannis straight up. They're kind of sharing Giannis, right? You start him out with Turner, then you got Pascal on him, then you had Neesmith on him. So they're rotating a little bit, right? With those fouls. Let's see what happens there. But I'm a big proponent of let's see how Turner shakes out in that first quarter, and I think everything else kind of plays off hill from that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm pretty confident in Pacers in 5, maybe 6, but I'm gonna say 5 for right now. I don't think Dame changes the tide like a lot of people think, but that's kind of how I'm feeling. New York and Detroit, I think a lot of people thought this was going to be the best series in the first round, but it's definitely Clippers and Nuggets. But I think this one's being a little underlooked, if you ask me. But I am going to still confidently say Knicks in 5. I may have said Knicks in 6 in our last episode, but I'm going to say Knicks in 5 for right now. Obviously the game is close, but I'm going to still say Knicks in 5 out of just confidence there. The next series, and I believe this is the last series, so after that we can kind of bounce around, is Lakers and Wolves. Lakers got the win, or not the Lakers, the Wolves got the win in game 3, but the Lakers won in game 2. And I think everything you said, Ramon, about what the Lakers needed to do in game 2, they did. I think they played well in game 2. I think they did what they needed to do in game 2 to get the win. But I think what you said about AR and how they show up in that first 6 minutes definitely rang true because they played very well. They played like a different team in game 2. And I think game 3, they really did the same thing. It was just a tight game. It was a really tight game. And you look at the stats, everyone on Minnesota showed up and the big 3 in LA showed up. You had some guys on the bench. I think the bench is still a bit of an issue for the Lakers, but the difference here is you have LeBron with 38 and 10, Doncic with 17 and 7, Reeves with 20 and 7. Then you got Hachimura and Dorian Finney-Smith with 8 points. And then on the side of Minnesota, Edwards had 29, McDaniels had 30, Randall had 22, and then you've got 2 guys off the bench, or 3 guys off the bench, DiVincenzo with 10, Conley with 9, Reed and 11. Both teams played well, right? Yeah. I got to watch the game, and I think both teams played well. I think the Lakers definitely could have done better with turnovers, and I think that's why they lost. 16 turnovers to the Timberwolves, 8 turnovers. That's something we talked about after game 1 was the turnovers the Lakers were having, and that's still their biggest issue up to this point. But I think the Lakers will win game 4. I think we're tied up as we head back to I'm calling it Staples, as they head back to Staples for game 5. I'm not nervous at all because they played that first game sucked to watch because they weren't themselves. But these last 2 games, they've really played well. And you just kind of lost a close one in LA. You let it get away in Minnesota. You let it get away from you there at the end of the game.
You make some good points, right? But here's what I would say about the Lakers and the Minnesota deal. We talked about it before. I'll still say defense. In
Yep.
that game the other night, Minnesota took 91 shots. Lakers took 78 shots. Okay. Field goal percentage. Minnesota 48% from the field. 3-pointers 13 to 36, right? So they didn't shoot great from 3-point, but 13 to 36 is respectable.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers didn't hit free throws. They were 13 to 20 free throws. There's a lot of points left on the table. And for me, the big deal is this: turnovers.
Yep.
Like you said, 16 to 8. 16 to 8, which tells me if you're not turning a team over more than 8, you're not playing real good defense either.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back. Honeymoon time is over. It's 2-1.
Yep.
Your back's against the wall. If you go down 3-1, you're not winning the series. You wasted a heroic effort by LeBron James the other night, 38 points. They call that empty calories. We always talked about he's 40 years old. How can he do this? Let's see what he does back to back. And I'm saying it wasn't a back-to-back game, but you played heavy minutes. If I remember right, I think he played 41 minutes.
Yeah.
41 as a 40-year-old.
And in game 2, what worked for the Lakers was Luka handled the offensive load. And Ramon said it, right? LeBron has never been a great defender. But with Luke in game 2, what really helped the Lakers out, and Bill Simmons said it on his podcast, so credit to Bill Simmons, because I was thinking the same thing when I was watching. LeBron focused a lot on defense in game 2. Offensively, he let Luka kind of just run the offense, and LeBron got his points where he could, but LeBron focused on the defense. LeBron was causing these turnovers. We talked about the turnovers in this game. The Lakers were causing turnovers, and LeBron got to focus on the ball. Ramon said it in one of our episodes. Where does LeBron thrive at defensively? Clogging the passing lanes and getting those. He got to do that in game 2, and that's why, in my opinion, that's why the Lakers won, because LeBron didn't have to be the offensive load because Luka was handling it. That's what the Lakers got to do. They've got to let LeBron be the defensive anchor, which obviously he's not the best defender, but you've got guys on this team.
Well, you don't have to be the great. You don't have to be the great defender.
Yeah, but
you don't have to be Gary Payton Lockett.
Mm-hmm. But and you've got guys like Rui, and you've got guys like Vanderbilt, and that's my other issue too. Vanderbilt's only playing 13 minutes. I realize offensively, that's where you're going to thrive, but you've got Jared Vanderbilt playing 13 minutes when you could have him. Who we say Vanderbilt's this good defender, one of the better defenders in the league, and you're giving him 13 minutes.
There's something amiss then.
And it's probably it's because of his offensive. He can't offensively. He's a bit of a liability.
Well, let me give you this stat then. Minnesota 56 points in the paint. The Lakers 26. You better get Vanderbilt in the game.
Yeah, and I think
because you can't stop a nosebleed. You're gonna go down 3-1. That's 30 more. And you know what's crazy about that? Foul wise, Lakers only have 4 more fouls than Minnesota. 23 to 19 with all those points in the paint. This tells me they're letting them play.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting them play. So this is an opportunity for Vanderbilt. He's kind of a rugged guy on the defensive end anyway. So this may be a situation where he may need to come in and get some run. But hey, listen, if he doesn't, it's going to be an uphill climb, and every other stat is pretty much even. There were 13 free throws left on the board.
On the board.
Yep.
Jordan Goodwin shouldn't be playing 12 minutes in these playoffs. Jordan Goodwin, Gabe Vincent should be playing 16 minutes. Not when Jared Vanderbilt was a strong contributor for this team last year, and I believe the year before that. I get what Redick's trying to do because Jackson Hayes only played 9 minutes. I get what he's trying to do because this team isn't tall.
He's the live guy. He's the live guy, right?
Yeah, so I see why, because Dorian Finney-Smith and Rui played 38 minutes. Dorian Fifth played 29. I get what Redick's going for, but like you said, Reeves defensively is a bit of a liability. He played 41 minutes. I want to see more of Jared Vanderbilt and Dorian Finney-Smith on the floor together with LeBron, because those three on the defensive side of the ball, I think, are going to make more of an impact than Finney-Smith, Hachimura, and LeBron.
Yeah, I see that. As I look at it, Vanderbilt did, have 5 rebounds in 13 minutes. And if you measure that out, you're talking about in a 26-minute game, you're talking about 10 rebounds.
The Lakers and Timberwolves, they were tied on rebounds. They had 38 rebounds each. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say this, Lakers starting five minus Jackson Hayes all of them played almost 40 minutes. That's not a recipe for winning. It could change. Things could change. Somebody could get hot, and it could Lakers could win by 15 tonight. But also, Timberwolves could win by 15 tonight if the Lakers haven't caught their legs back yet.
Yeah.
Right? You're not talking about spring chicken and James. Yeah, Doncic is a young guy, but he's a heavy guy who's never been a guy who you're going to worry about logging any meaningful defensive challenges, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So honeymoon's over. I keep saying that.
No,
honeymoon's over.
I disagree with you, and I think for this season, it wasn't viewed for me. I wasn't going into this saying, "Oh, we're going to win a chip." I said ceiling. Even when we traded for Doncic and before Doncic, I said ceiling was probably the conference finals, right? And I felt strong about that even after we traded for Doncic. But I already said this is going to be hard to do with no center. And I think Pelinka knows, and I think the whole organization knows you have to go get a center. It is very unfortunate that you don't have that the Mark Williams trade didn't go through, but
it did go through. They decided to fail his physical.
So I'm curious. That's fair. That's fair. So
we got to be careful because here's the thing. I think they had buyer's remorse.
I think it's shocking too. Connect has not played at all.
Yeah, he played 1 minute at the end of the game the other night. 1 minute.
It's showing 0 for me.
And Alex Lynn played 1 minute.
All right, we get it. I know.
So, but back to the point though, right?
Yeah.
If they got cold feet, I think people in the organization and close to the team said, whoa, you're going to let go of Dalton Connect and a number 1 pick for this guy who's been injured. Did you see what Williams did the last half of the season?
Yes, I know.
He's not hurt.
He wasn't hurt.
That was their opportunity. I think they got cold feet, and they said, because teams dictate if you pass or fail the physical, not you necessarily.
Yeah.
You can argue me down all you want. Anybody is a Laker fan out there, they got cold feet. Someone said, are you sure you want to get this guy? He's been injured a lot. Can you imagine having a legit 7-footer in there that's protecting the rim and there's a rim runner on top of it?
Yeah.
That's going to be the demise of the Lakers in 2024-2025 season.
Yeah, they got to go get a center. And I've put out some possible names that I think they could go and get. Honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head right now because we've been talking about all these playoff series, but you got a chance to go get a center this offseason. Maybe you go into the draft and you get a center or something like that, And I think we talked about DeAndre Ayton's definitely probably a name if Portland wants to give Klingon more minutes. I think they're going to trade Connect to go get a center because they're not playing Connect. And there was a point where Connect was seeing 20-plus minutes in this Lakers lineup at one point. I think Connect mentally has not recovered from being traded and then being brought back. I don't think he ever mentally recovered from it. And I understand. I'm not mad at him for it.
He talked about that, too. He said how it hurt him that he was looking at being traded.
Yeah.
I relate to him, but I don't know.
We've got less than a minute, so we're going to end the segment. We'll do the wraparound segment, and we'll come back to that. But that is going to do it for this segment. We've got the wraparound coming up next.